Hey everyone, today is Cybersecurity Chat episode number 9. I'm really excited about today's episode because there's so many things that people don't know about cybersecurity. And I'll tell you a little bit of a story which happened to me last week in between episodes. I was at, it was an identity theft seminar. And it was interesting. It was a CPA, which is a certified professional accountant, I think they are. And they were talking about identity theft and how people can lose their identity through their credit cards and information. But it was interesting. The person trying to do her best was reading from the slides. So they really didn't know the information. And when people started asking questions about, well, how am I going to protect my credit card? What's different strategies that I can do? Where can my credit card be stolen? How can my credit card be stolen in different ways? Is it phone? Is it the internet? Is it someone walking by with an EFI reader that scans a car? And she didn't know. She was just like, well, call your bank and ask them. And then she was talking about like phishing attacks, but she didn't know what they were called. She was talking about how people try to collect information from you from online, or phishing, VISHING, where someone tries to get your information over the phone. And which was scary was that there was a lot of great people in the audience that started to raise their hand and said, hey, this happened to me. I had a call yesterday. What am I supposed to do? And we looked at the different generations. And one of the scary parts is that, hackers, people that are trying to compromise people, like to go after the older population when it comes to phishing attacks, because especially when it comes to the new scams, where there's phishing, VISHING. And what happens is that because the older generation, boomers, respect authority, right? And have this blinded knowledge or respect for authority that if someone calls from a bank, their doctor's office, whatever that may be, they're not validating the call. They're just, oh, it's my phone company. Okay, what do you need? Where the younger generations, just kind of wrote those down. You got the traditionalists, you got the baby boomers, you got the Generation X, Generation Y, and Generation Z. But Generation X, Y, and Z are now learning to question, well, why are you calling me? Let me call you back. Why are you asking this information? And the scary part is that, like, when I talked to some of the boomers and the traditionalists, when they were saying that, well, why would I question them? Well, how do you know? And I asked them straight out, how do you know that that's really the doctor? Well, they said they are, but how do you know? And they're like, well, but they said they are. They're calling from, calling and asking and having information. I said, well, what if I told you they didn't get that information from anywhere, right? They can get that information from online. They can get it from family and friends. They can get it anywhere. And the scary part of this conversation is that they didn't realize that. They didn't realize that, all this information can be collected from social media, their information they have maybe online, their family and friends have, surveys they might have taken, right? That information might have been shared publicly. So all that information that they are sharing in other forms might be out there that they don't know. And it's simple information to validate their account. It's not that hard. It's first name, last name, email address, mailing address, date of birth. A lot of the companies, and I did some testing of this, a lot of companies are validating people's accounts when they call in with that simple information. Right? It's not the point of what's your passcode, what's your social security number. And even that information can be collected online. It's not that hard in this day and age. So when I explained to them, I asked them, do a test, call your bank, call your phone company and ask them, hey, my name's John, I'm calling in. What information do you need for me to get started on this call? And, I've got emails this week and they're saying to me like, wow, I didn't realize how little information they needed, right, to validate my account, get in there. And I said, now think of it this way. Imagine now they get your all your information, they get your account information, whatever that may be, and they say, oh, what mailing address do you have online? Oh, that's the one. Oh, no, I need you to change that. Oh, what email address? Oh, change that email address because I need to change it to the hacker's email address. They can do that because now they have authorization to your account. Oh, what credit card? What's the last 4 digits? Because I just changed my credit card. Oh, that's it. So now they have the last 4 digits of your credit card. So now they can go rampant through other accounts, other online systems, So they can maybe get access from your, say, your phone company. And now because they have more information, they can go now to maybe your bank account and now get off authorizations. And the bank account sometimes asks, well, what's the last 4 digits of your credit card? And you go, oh, the last 4 digits are this, X, Y, and Z. Well, now because that hacker's got it in one account, now he's able to get in the other and start kind of going through. Oh, yeah, can we change my password? Yeah, I changed my email address from my old one to the new one because I changed, they'll give you some sort of reasoning, rationale. I changed jobs, whatever that may be. Can we put this new one? So now they got full access to your account, right? And they can reset the password and go in. So it's so important when we're talking about like cybersecurity in this day and age is how to protect yourself. And like I said, that CPA was really trying to do a great job, but she wasn't really talking about the real deep experiences, scenarios, and knowledge. So what happened was through the talk, she was asked if anyone has any questions or more information, feel free to share. And there was a certain point about 20 minutes in the talk, I could tell people were starting to ask a lot of questions. Where what I was doing was I was ending up and putting my hand up and say, if you don't mind, could I add a little bit to that? By the end of the talk, it was funny. I brought my grandmother because she wanted me to take her because she was looking at personal identity theft and how it would help. By the end of the talk, the CPA was saying something, giving some advice or talking about a topic. The audience would look at me and go, well, Brandon, what do you think? Right? And it really kind of made me understand that the depth of knowledge that for cybersecurity is so low that people are looking for, how do I protect myself? Christy's saying, another reason why I always ask for my receipts because they have the last 4 digits. Exactly. And you kind of look at this. When you're going shopping, restaurants, make sure that when you're giving your card for them to scan it, one of two things. Either one, they're bringing the scanners, which they do now in a lot of restaurants, to your table, and you're watching them scan and go through that. Or if they're going to a scanning station, you go with them. Because what happens is, and I think they're like $25 to $50, you can get these scan readers, small little readers that will, if you swipe it, it'll read all the information off your card. And then you can download that information and have that. Well, if someone does that and reads your card and swipes all the information, well, guess what? They have that. So now they can download the information. They can even potentially put it onto another card, and now they have access. So it's up to us as users to be diligent, really, on our security practices. What we're doing, what we're giving, what we're relaying to people. Rod, if you yourself or Christy wants to jump in, come on in. So talking about the different demographics when we're talking about security, like cybersecurity and knowledge and experience, it's harder for the different generations to really kind of grasp onto it, especially when you look at the older, like baby boomers or traditionalists. You'll find more Generation X, Generation Y, and Generation Z. And I'll give you a little bit of breakdown. So I don't know if you guys know the different generations breakdown, but I'm going to give you the concepts here. Traditionalists are from 1928 to 1944. They value authority, top-down management approach, hardworking, make do or do without. Baby boomers, 1945 to 1964, accept some degree of difference to their opinions. They're workaholics. Generation X, from 1965 to 1979, comfortable with authority, will work as hard as needed, importance of work-life balance. So they're starting to see kind of the difference. Generation Y, 1980 to 1994, respect must be earned, technology savvy, goal and achievement oriented. So here you're starting to see like respect must be earned. So they're really kind of questioning authority, infrastructures, right? They're trying to see, where, they fit in this society and their economy and their, geographic location. How is everything working, right? And they question everything. They want to make sure that it all fits, right? And then Generation Z, 1995. Many trails still to emerge, digital natives, fast decision makers, highly connected. So you look at Generation Z, 1995 and up, these guys don't know how to be disconnected. Right? They're mobile devices, iPads, iPhones, right? They don't know about the rotary phone and things that some of us might know about, right? And, having to actually go and talk to someone versus texting them, right? Or Snapchat or anything along that line. So these are some great tips if you're looking at, whatever career, whatever job, how you're relating to people, how to look at, how they take in information. I know for myself, I run a marketing company, and we're transitioning into helping people with cybersecurity, because the day of marketing and cybersecurity are now hand in hand, as people are marketing online through websites, social media, digital marketing, paid ads, you name it. They have to make sure that they're protecting themselves as they're getting out there. So understanding the different generations makes a really good learning tool and informative for myself and other people to be able to say, you know what, where does this person fit? How do they understand technology? How do they understand the information, right? And when I deal with some baby boomers and some traditionalists, mostly baby boomers and Generation X, when we're talking about the older generation, and talking about technology, sometimes they have to go through the pain points of, learning it, doing it on their own, understanding how it works. And sometimes it takes them longer to grab those concepts and knowledge. So we're looking at, yourselves don't know what jobs you guys are in. I know Ali is a master in business, so I'm sure he deals with this as well when dealing with the older generation. Sometimes when they have to deal with technology, like bookkeeping software, project management tools, maybe even productivity, like Evernote or OneNote and tools like that, it's really hard for them to grasp and take some time. Right? I know a lot of FreshBooks and on QuickBooks and online systems, a lot of them, right, are harder for them to learn because they're so used to, the paper format and doing it by hand. Right? And going into the digital format is really kind of a big step. So, and then talking about going back into cybersecurity, it's really important for them to understand, how to secure themselves, even the simple as password policies, right? Making sure that they have the right passwords for the systems that they're using, that it's not 1, 2, 3, 4. Like even at that talk, we were talking about password policies. It was interesting. One of the comments I made was, don't have the same password, username and password for every platform that you use. And so many were like confused. Well, why not, Brandon? It's easy for me. I said, if it's easy for you, it's easy for a hacker. Because if I can get into one, I can get to all of them. And they were like, well, what do you mean? If I can get into your Facebook account and use the same username and password or same email address and password, if you use the same password for your bank account and maybe even the same email address or, the same information, it's easier for me to get in. I mean, it's less for me to try to, brute force or compromise, right? And I could get in. Maybe it might take me, if I don't know that information, 3-4 months to get in. But if I start knowing that one account's the same as the other one and then the other one, now it might take me a couple hours to get in, or even less, depending on how secure you actually are. So they were really kind of like, wow, why doesn't our bank tell us that? Why doesn't people tell us that? And I said, well, their concern right now is accessibility, making sure that you have access to everything, making sure it's cool, it's innovative, it's on your phones, it's easy for you to access. They're not thinking about the other side is how to protect you, right, and giving you a lot of great information on their side, because it might put you in a fear state that you don't want to use their tools, right? So they're not able to inform you and educate on how to empower you. They're more thinking it's going to scare you. And that's the thing that I'm trying to do, is show the difference between the fear state of, oh my God, the sky is falling, to, no, okay, I understand this, I'm educated. Now, how do I protect myself so I can still use the tools and still be safe? So that's why I do these cybersecurity chats, is to make sure that people ask the right questions. And we talk about all things different, from personal security, when it's talking about like being online, protecting your family, making sure you're not posting the right information, to business security, making sure there are right policies and procedures in place, using the right technology. So, let me know if you guys, and here's a question for you guys to start out. What are your jobs? What do you guys do in your day-to-day from 9 to 5, Monday to Friday? Post that on the side. I'd really like to hear and see what you guys think about cybersecurity. It's really interesting. I mean, like I said, in this day and age, when it comes to technology and information, a lot of people right now are looking at innovation, right? Looking at how to get new tools, new applications, and doing all these great things. But what happens at the end of the day, they're not reading the terms of service. They're not looking at how it can compromise them, what it connects to. Wait a second here. I just got someone coming in. Oh, I got Monty coming in.
Hey, how's it going, Brenda?
Hey, Monty, how's it going?
Pretty good. Let me mute this microphone over here. Okay, you covered a lot of very good points. And yeah, you guys that are listening in, Brandon is really letting you guys know that everyone wants convenience, everyone wants accessibility, but we really got to be careful, because when you trade off your own security, as far as your information, how you secure your account, that's exactly what the hackers want. They want us to take the easy route. And believe it or not, being safe and secure online is not difficult now. Once upon a time, you had to practically be a programmer to put some of these things in place. But now, to put two-factor authentication on your Gmail account, for instance, or your PayPal account, it's not that big of a deal.
Well, and this is a good point. I'd ask you guys, the guys that are watching, how many actually have two-step authentication on your accounts? Majority of your accounts, from like what Monty's saying, Google, Facebook, all these great things, all have two-step authentication now. That one, you get text, right? Security code that you put in your information, your username, password, then you get texted, and then you actually authenticate. And then you get notified, like I know with Facebook right now, which is really doing a great job of it, is they'll notify you where that person's logging in. So you can kind of say, okay, hold on, that's not me for this browser in this city. Oh, that's not me, and then you can stop that session. So it's really good.
Brandon, let me ask you a question.
Yeah.
In your title over there, when I first came in, it mentioned cybersecurity or something, but now in my browser, there's some looks like a different language in the title section, or is that just my screen? Maybe
might be your screen. It's still showing.
Okay.
Cybersecurity episode number 9, cybersecurity chat for you and your business.
Oh, okay, cool. All right.
So
I could tweet this out right now, right?
You can.
Okay.
Zoomcat SWAT. If you want to give me your first name, Zoom, is saying it's 20-year-old technology, and you're right. It's older technology, but it's what happens is some of the newer platforms, social media, stuff like that, is now starting to incorporate it. So Corey, tell me, like, what do you do? So Monty, it's good to have you here. I mean, one of the things I love is because you're a security expert yourself, promoting, spy gadget tools and things that people use. What's your thoughts on what's going on in this day and age with cybersecurity and people's protection? I think he hung. Well, I talk to a lot of computer hackers and carters, so I know quite a bit. Good to know. Zoom saying, Sir Corey saying, but usually I trick them into hacking me and things I own, so I can snitch on them to the network FBI. I just wanted to make a comment about the two-step authentication. What do you want to know? I'm going to prove I'm the greatest hacker in the world. I'm going to own all of my swatting all of you. Nice. Okay. So what's your thoughts, Monty, on what's going on with the cybersecurity industry and just the general population? Because I know you deal with spy gadgets and rentals. What's your thought as an expert?
Well, it looks like it's finally elevated. The conversation is being elevated to a very high level, actually where it should be, because see what's happening is, and a lot of you guys really want to embrace this, is we're looking at a situation where every particular area of vulnerability is being looked at by the hackers and such. And if I were a hacker, I would look for the weakest link in the chain, and that means that if it's a small business, if it's a personal account, etc., that's where you go. Because if Brandon is a CEO of a corporation and I'm a partner or maybe I'm an employee, it may be difficult to get into Brandon's account. But if my cybersecurity protocols are weak, then it's probably going to be more beneficial to hack into my account first, and then you get access to Brandon's account, Brandon's information. And as you mentioned earlier, that's when you start to see that he starts to see strange things going on as far as hearing about information, trademark secrets, intellectual property, et cetera, going out the door. So yeah, it's more cost efficient. And see, a lot of these attacks are becoming more state sponsored. We're no longer seeing just individual cyber kitty punks or whatever hacking and doing most of the damage. Now we're seeing state sponsored attacks where there's very, very well funded organizations on the highest levels, and those are the major players. And as Brandon pointed out last week, for instance, we had a hospital in Los Angeles, a Presbyterian hospital, where the information was stolen and held for ransom. I think they wanted at least $1 million to unlock for the hospital to unlock their own files and get it back from the hackers. And so that's a new area. We have to look at ransomware. That's a very hot topic. So make sure you guys understand, if you don't back up your data often, etc., then I'll let Brandon talk more about ransomware, but that's a very hot area right there, ransomware.
Well, I mean, that's a great point. One of the challenges, I think, with ransomware is that people are unaware of their surfing and their activities through the day can connect them to some sort of bot, malware that all of a sudden now encrypts their data, like you're saying, and then all of a sudden now they're stuck. And then there's this splash page that they get sent to, and it gives them a countdown. And I know they were using Bitcoin. A lot of the compromisers were using Bitcoin to say pay, equivalent of $500 American to get your information. And the thing was with the ransomware, a lot of the times they were saying that it's not 100% that you'd actually get your account or your information unhacked. You might pay and still be compromised. So one of the things you have to look is make sure you have your antivirus and your definitions are all up to date, right? If you're using anything like I was talking about, McAfee, Kaspersky, there's a lot of great ones that are out there that keep up to date. Second, like Monty was saying, back up your data off your system, right? Make sure that you have an external hard drive that's not always backed up, like not always connected. Because if it's connected, it can be compromised as well. But have it an external backup that's always off, disconnected, that you back up on a schedule that you disconnect. Because what happens if you ever have to recover the data, applications can always be reinstalled. Data is what's the value, right? If you have to install Word or Evernote or your Outlook, all that, so what? But if you back up your PST file, you back up your data, that's where the value is, right? Because again, if you lose that, especially if you're looking at like you're a company or organization, and you need your data, your company data, you want to make sure you have that. So Monty's bringing up some great points when it talks about malware, and so many people still don't understand malware. They don't understand the repercussions of it. And you guys are talking about the hospital. I mean, you're talking about corporations where they have security professionals in there at that high level. Now imagine the general population, right? Joe, Fred, Bob, who's just kind of surfing around in the net using Facebook and all that. These are the ones that are getting hacked and getting compromised on an ongoing basis. The corporations are like espionage or cyber warfare are being attacked for malicious adventures, but it's the average Joe that gets the compromise where they can't recover, right? Bigger companies should be able to recover from it. Now they have backups and redundancies and systems in place to do that. But again, being hit, and use an example for the hospital, if a hospital gets hit and their systems go down, the cardiac machines, their x-ray machines, their MRI machines now are all networked. So
and see, I want you to finish your thought. See, what's really interesting too, Brandon, is the problem that allowed that hack for the ransomware to take place. It's relatively easy to resolve. As Brandon pointed out, if the hospital had backed up their data, just like you and me, if somebody hacks into my computer right now and locks my files, I go to iCloud, I go to Dropbox, I go to Google's hard drive or whatever, and I re-download those files, okay, and then I'm back in business. So that really shouldn't have been that big of an issue. Besides, if either one of us has two-factor authentication and the various notification features enabled, now we get a chance to see suspicious activity, right? I mean, look,
Exactly.
when you guys get a chance, look at Facebook security protocols. I think they are some of the more leading edge, if you will, because as you mentioned, you get warned in various ways that is this you? And believe it or not, even if I lose my password username through Facebook, I can have, there's a setting in there in the security section where you can, if me and Brandon are partners or friends, or so I can give him the password or username or something so that I can get it from him just in case I can't find mine. So yeah, you can have a backup. And so there's a number of different things that don't cost a whole lot of money, aren't very sophisticated to implement, but definitely we're doing.
Oh, exactly. I mean, and that's the thing. Talking about a hack, one of the things that you guys got to know, and he's talking about what happens is Facebook has a reset policy that you can pick one of your 4 closest friends, and then what happens is it will send them out a notification, and then they can give you the username and password, and then you can be able to log in. The only thing is you got to be careful is that you're monitoring that, because what happens was hackers were doing was they were creating profiles of Facebook, becoming your friend. And what happens is then they were trying to reset your password, picking their profiles, and then they were able to sent out the password.
I didn't know that.
Yeah, so just be mindful of that, because it was one of the points of, it's a great authentication tool, but people were being compromised because they didn't realize that hackers were actually creating profiles to compromise that.
There's another area, Brandon, that seems to be a hot area right now. We all throw around this term, and depending upon what industry you're in, there's a term called gamification, okay?
Mm-hmm.
Now, typically, when you think about gamification, you think about maybe Foursquare or one of those types of sites where you frequent a restaurant or a coffee shop and you get badges and you get rewards and you get acknowledgement for visiting certain places all the time, okay?
Right.
That's one approach. Now, think about the concept, because a lot of times if you reward me for doing a specific thing, now I feel better about doing it, right? So what we're learning in the cyber field and security field, we're learning that why not take that same concept and implement it and as far as security is concerned on the job within the companies where we work for and the companies that we own. And it's very interesting when you find that people like being rewarded for doing the things that they're supposed to be doing all along, right? But if you reward them, now it's like, okay, I got my name on a plaque on the wall for doing certain things, questioning, who logged into an account, who tried to come behind me when I'm going through the turnstile into a security area or something.
Like tailgating.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah, I'll let you expand upon that, but I just want to throw that out there.
But you're right. You're right in the sense when you're talking about gamification. The thing is, what you look at is and that's what we were talking about earlier about the generations. Different generations are looking for their value in different tools now. Where you're talking about like the older generations, like you talk about like baby boomers and traditionalists and Generation X, they look in self-worth of their activities of, what they do, how they accomplish goals. Where the Generation Y and Generation Z are looking on the application and this technical aspect of likes, comments, and shares, and how many views they get on a video, and the game, how big they can build the game, and their quality of the game. Their value is in the technology and how the technology raises their self-esteem. So gamification, doing that, giving them value, sticks them. I mean, look at I'm trying to think of that Facebook game. Farmville. Look how big that grew, right? In popularity and community, right? Just because you got value. And then you look at monetary value, where people in the sense were always buying because you had to upgrade. You had to upgrade your farm. You had to upgrade this. So they're always putting money. So when you look at this Farmville and the community, it grew. But then you look at the compromises, like you're saying, gamification, in the sense of the compromise you get, that these people are playing all over the place. And if I'm a sniffer and I'm at Starbucks and I put a sniffing tool and I'm looking for their username and password as they're playing Farmville, well, guess what? I can compromise that person. Or, Farmville, if you're playing maybe the free version, there's banners that come up. I compromise a banner ad. You click on that. Now I can put malware on your phone, on your device, and I can compromise you. So it's something that we don't think about, like you're saying, and I agree, is that you don't think about the security aspect of the accessibility and the cool tools that you're using and the value the perceived value. And I say perceived value because you getting a like, a comment, or share doesn't make you a better person. Right? It doesn't make you a higher, you're a smart person, you're a great person. That just shows that the content that you're putting out shows value to that individual. Right? That's all that is. It doesn't mean you're good or bad or whatever that means. Your self-worth is right now is in what you do day to day and who you're around. What you do with the technology is just, innovation. And I think people really have to understand that, especially the younger generation, is that it's innovation. It's helped to kind of make systems better. But at the end of the day, we have to look at the two-sided coin. Software is hackable, being connected is vulnerable. And doing that, making sure, like we're talking about, is being secure. We got some questions here. Phishing and changing one's password. Chris is saying stupid things is those security questions because they can't be bypassed or guessed. Can be mean. They can be guessed. So she's talking about like I guess a security authentication when people are going in and saying, say, what's your dog's name? What's your date of birth? Or where was your high school to be authenticated, right? I think that's what she's getting at, right? And that's true. That's going to be socially engineered. Right, we can look at, and this is the one thing I was showing someone the other day was, you think your information is not out there. Look how many people wish you a happy birthday on your birthday, right? And some people say your date of birth, right, or just you're 50, happy 50th birthday. Well, it doesn't take a rocket scientist to be able to say, okay, well, it's 2016, subtract 50. Now I know the date, the day, the month, and the year that you're born. So I got your date of birth right now. And finding your address, seeing people post images, geo-tracking. I can take your geo-tracking information and I can Google image it or Google Maps. And in Google Maps, I can go down to the Google Street View and see your house, right, and see your place.
Well, that's an interesting point. Now, Brandon, you hit on certain things. You give your birthday, give their birthdays, okay? I mean, what our birthday is, people to me when happy birthday, even though it's 2 days after the fact, they're not my birthday. So, being so honest, these social networks,
Watching when it comes to for example, and you don't share that information. When you're home, make sure your and it might be cool, but being safer and not be cool versus being cool and being hurt. Right? There's a lot of all that. So back to the issue of the images, that's why it's so important to understand these how those yeah, you can just the analogy here. Make sure that you secure your own do great things, but if you're trying to on your phone, I should so
protecting our privacy and any implications that has for how we ensure the secure process.
public about protecting information. All it is that there's things that we don't know about sharing. Right? So when we're working for right? Yeah, we music, when we use it, different types of information, like information or somewhere. Now, I use it a lot of times when I'm protect our only do that. At the end of the day, did you have access? It's only trying to be able to compromise that privacy and saying, hey, I'll give us rights to it. We have to think about what that's the case of understanding our because at the end of the day, you're using this device and so much information. I know that why are people being ignorant of the situation that information is being stored and used against us? So essential things we need to do is that's people saying we share that's the essential things to get access to it. It's not really compromise that. Right?
That's a good point. Also, and your phone very keep your credit card. Can take advantage is the Apple Pay services, whereby you can scan the barcode or you can tap your phone near the actual terminal. That may give you when we open our credit card. I'll say when companies tokenize our credit card number, then that means safer, right?
Sure. And you gotta know what want finding the backdoor example, China. So I'm going to address that, Chris. So what happens is we're not talking about hackers at this point. We're talking about Big Brother. And a lot of times when you look at different challenges when it comes to your personal security, your legalities, you have to look at how you protect yourself. Because at the end of the day, if your government, your police see something that they think they can charge you with, they're going to come after you. Now, just give you an example. Say, for example, you are on a hacker site and you got there by surfing on the net and you clicked on a link and then you went to a hacker site and it was somewhere that was being FBI investigated. Well, now you can be associated into that criminal act because now you went to that site and it might have been by accident. Right now, because they're monitoring that site and they're monitoring everyone that's doing it, and they have access to your device. Now, guess what? You get pulled into that, and what happens is now you could be charged as a criminal act as being affiliated or associated with that crime. So that's why it's smart to protect yourself. And I'm not saying like do illegal acts and try to hide them. I'm saying protect yourself with the information because you might make an accident. You might do something and want to clear your cache and do that, but you might be being tracked. If the FBI and Big Brother is doing that, how do you go back now? And this is the thing that I'm saying to people is it's not the point of going back. It's right now being diligent now in protecting yourselves so you don't have to now pay for lawyers and do all the legal actions that later that might cost you tens of thousands of dollars because you might have made a mistake. You might have clicked on the wrong thing. And this is why it's up to us as users to be empowered of the knowledge of cybersecurity, what's going on, to influence companies with our dollars of how we spend our dollars, right? And asking the right questions. Because if we ask the right questions and don't buy because they don't have the right systems in place, policies, security in place, that will force them to do that. So for example, let's just talk about Apple. If Apple says, you know what, we're going to give the FBI full carte blanche, they're going to have a backdoor access. Anytime they want to have access to the phone, they can do that. And if the Apple phone sales go down because of that, then they're going to have to say, you know what, we're going to have to fight harder because we're losing profits, right? Our consumers have said, no, we're not going to buy from you anymore. We're going to go to Samsung, the competitor now, but who says, no, we're not going to give the FBI access because they're going to protect us. So it's up to us to protect ourselves with our education, our knowledge, our questions, and then our dollars.
Yeah, I think that's a very important point. When you vote with your dollars and questions and actions, that really does make a difference because, see, believe it or not, when you let's look at the banking system, okay? We're learning that the street gangs of all people now, instead of doing more robberies and concentrating just mainly on selling drugs or whatever, guess what they're doing? They're duplicating white collar crimes in the banking system. For instance, I was just reading that there's Crips and the Bloods in Los Angeles. There's other gangs in New York, and other gangs in Washington D.C. or something. These guys have figured out how to do white collar crimes. And one example, for instance, I think there's a gang in, for instance, Long Beach, California. They took probably $7 million from various banks by having money orders and cashier's checks printed up. And so they would print up they would print out the cashier's checks and the money orders and take them into the banks, and give and accomplish the cashier's checks and the bogus cashier's checks and money orders, and those guys would cash them. And before the banks typically hold that check for a few days while they try and verify whether or not there's funds or not. But see, and the crooks know that when you have a delay like that, you can take advantage. You get your money, you're out of the bank. The banks are still clearing the check, and
right.
and if you're not careful, the dollar amounts go up to $1 million, $7 million in this particular case. So yeah, we need to have a conversation with the financial institutions about why you guys so far behind when it comes to protecting the money in the bank, which is your money and my money. We pay a certain amount of money. It's like insurance premiums. They go up when there's more crimes. And we don't pay as much, of course, when we all exercise good diligence when it comes to protecting a thing. So yeah, this extends to the cyber world and extends into the real world as well.
Exactly. Now, Chris was bringing up a point, something about I guess it was the police or FBI. They don't charge you unless you intentionally did something wrong. So I'm going to talk on my experience
Right.
with dealing with the police and dealing with the FBI. They do a great job, but a lot of times it's up to the individual to prove themselves innocent. It's not up to the
Yeah.
police to prove you innocent. So if they suspect that you've done something wrong, they can bring you in and charge you. And then it's up to you to go through the court system and prove your innocence. So just be mindful of that. And that's why I'm saying that I've heard some guys that have been innocent that have done, by accident, got into a situation. And I'm talking the cyber world, their nephew, and I'll give you an example, their next door neighbor. This was one of the situation I had. A guy had his Wi-Fi open, right? And he just installed his Wi-Fi. The internet providers came in, they installed the router, left the Wi-Fi open, and this guy was an older gentleman, didn't think anything of it. So what happened was he was just going, he just checked email, went online to see the news, weather, whatever that may be. He got a call from the internet provider saying, well, you downloaded 10 gigabytes of data every night for the last 3 nights at, around 3-4 o'clock in the morning. We've reported you because it's, illegal content. It's things that have been against privacy and policies and all that. So we've reported you to the police. Well, the police came in, they grabbed his computer, they did all that. They didn't see it on the system, but he got charged at that point. And then what happened was he had to prove that it wasn't him. Well, he had someone come in that was a cybersecurity investigation, and they did it, and they found out that his router got compromised by the next door neighbor. And all they were downloading was illegal videos and things like that. And he got dinged for it at that time. Now, he had to pay for lawyers, he had to pay for court, and he had to do all that, and he had to prove himself innocent. So that's what I'm saying. I understand the court systems, and what our understanding of it is that we're innocent until we're proven guilty. But it's not the case, and that's why it's up to be mindful of what we're doing, right, in our actions. Because, it's not the point do something illegal. And I want to put that out there right now. All you guys are thinking about, I can do something illegal. Don't do something illegal. I'm saying for the ones that are doing ethical practice or trying to use the technology, right, understand it so that you don't get caught doing something that may be a mistake and now have to pay for it.
Yeah, guilt by association is a very big issue. I think once I can't remember who initiated the Patriot Act. Was it Bush? One of the Bushes. When they first implemented the Patriot Act, one of the things that made it so powerful, you guys, is that, as Brandon pointed out, it doesn't have you don't have to be the main culprit that was doing the plotting for money laundering, child porn, terrorists, etc. You could be just nearby or overheard the conversation or associated in some way. And see, because when the laws are written that ambiguously, that means any lead is a good lead in that case. So yeah, I may have been seen near someone, or maybe someone thought I was affiliated with one of the targets. That gives the government a very good reason to monitor my conversation, take a look at my emails, check my text messages, etc. And this is really, in my opinion, it's a contentious issue, I have to admit, and people are going to have vigorous attitudes or whatever, on both sides of the table, as far as how we approach the debate or something. But the bottom line is this: it's a very good possibility that you will be people will be checking your emails, checking your text message, etc. And you want to make sure that you do everything possible to distinguish yourself from the problem. If that means locking down your router, if that means double checking the firmware on it to see if it's up to date, then that's what we have to do. Because again, the Internet of Things world that we're getting into means every single thing is connected and communicating information, and any particular vulnerability in any part of the network is a good vulnerability. The hackers, like the terrorists, they only have to get it right once. We have to be on top of things 100% of the time.
So Chris is asking, what's that called in cybersecurity where they make assumptions? Starts with an A, can't remember. Assumptions?
It starts with an A in the cybersecurity world. That's a good question. I can't remember right off.
I'll have to think about that. But yeah, I mean, Monty's bringing up some good points here. I mean, this is the thing, is that you really have to think about, your privacy, what you're using your systems for, your technology. And then, like I said, when we talked about earlier, how much information and data you're putting on these devices, right? And the things that you're doing, right? You might not have to do as much as you're thinking on these devices, that you're putting your accounting information, your banking information, all your credit card information, all this great stuff. You might want to lock that down in different areas that it's not so accessible. Again, when we're talking about the policing, something that is really kind of scary in this sense is that if they have access, and guilt by association, which Monty was talking about, if they have access to this information, what happens is they can go through what is called the chain of investigation. And the chain of investigation is they go for the lowest common denominator and try to get you to compromise the person above you. So if they think that person, they're going to give you a deal. They're still going to try to charge you, but they're going to get a lesser deal if you can, compromise the person above you. And they call it ratting out or whatever, or, making a deal on the person above you, because they want to go after the highest person. So if you get caught in that chain and you're the lowest common denominator, you still could be charged because you might have got a text, or they might have compromised your router, or whatever that may be. And now you're in that chain where now they're going to charge you unless you give the information of the person above. And sometimes if people, when looking at cybersecurity, might not know because you're just a victim. You've been compromised because you weren't securing your router, and someone they drove by, hacked your router and compromised it, got some information, and then went away. So something we really have to think about is the overall security policy of you personally, and then you professionally, of how you're protecting everything.
One of the last things that I also want to touch upon, we talked about gamification. I just want to make sure that we cover what happens when you see something, because you guys can talk to your employers about this, but when you see, this is the good news about gamification is, if I notice something fishy about the phishing attempts that have taken place on my computer at work, now I can report that. And if your company is initiating a gamification strategy, now what happens is I get acknowledgement for reporting this, right? So I'm aware of it and I'm looking for it, and I see that this email is coming to me and it's asking me to click on a link. And I think it's suspicious, so I forward that to the security people or whoever, network administrators, whatever, and they take a look at it, and now they say, okay, you saved us from a potential problem. So now I get a badge, or I get a reward, or some acknowledgement, or something. So what happens is overall that you create a competitive environment on the job, or an environment where everybody's looking to one up the next person to keep an eye on these potential threats. So I think that's one thing we want to keep in mind going forward, because we need a way of incentivizing people to keep their eyes open, keep their ears open, and make sure that you don't fall victim, because now you talk about compromising the company's networks and the company's security protocols if we don't pay attention. So it's a hot area, definitely.
Oh, for sure. And I mean, gamification, if you look at it in the sense of rewards for people monitoring the security, the actual users, it's a good strategy to implement. But the things like you said, and one thing I always confirm is the morale of the individuals, of competitive knowledge, the competitiveness inside the company, right? Oh yeah, I've got 10 stars, and oh, you only got 8. Well, I'm better than you, right? And that kind of, and it's always good to have the company and the employees empowered to practice good security policies, making sure they're implementing, make sure they're always educated about the new things that are coming out, that you have seminars, webinars, and monthly, not just, every quarter. And some companies do it every review session yearly, annually, that, okay, here's a new security policy. You're going for a review, sign this, make sure that it's up to date, that you understand all this. But no, they have to be updated monthly, because there's so many things when it comes to compromising security that's ongoing that, and we touch about ransomware. How many people in the companies that know about ransomware?
Right.
And I mean, ransomware we're talking about, and I'll just talk just quickly on this, is that the ransomware could be affecting just the user, the host, or it can go into the full network. Well, the network's protected in the sense of the servers and the back end and your solution, but the host is not. Well, the host can be compromised and ransomware. Well, if that's your accounting person and they have your accounting documents and they're doing all that, well, guess what? Now they've got ransomware. They've been compromised, and now you might have to spend time and money to resolve that. Being reload their system, have an IT person come down, and that's time that you don't need to spend. So having the right security education and policies in place, and having the gradual that they get rewarded and doing that is a good practice. Now we're coming up. It's 11 o'clock. I have two things. One, guys, do you guys have any questions for us since we've been chatting? I know Monty and myself have been giving a lot of great information. And Monty, I have one question for you. What's one thing this week people can do to protect themselves? What's one thing that you say, go out and do something right now, right today?
Go out immediately, talk to your child about cybersecurity and what to do when you go online and what not to do. Make sure you communicate effectively to them that if someone's asking them for information, check that with mommy and daddy first, because if that's going to be the weak link, then that's the weak link. The child doesn't know that they don't need to give out sensitive information when they're online with these smartphones and laptops or desktops. We're giving them a lot of gadgets and such, but I don't know if we're having a very good conversation with them to let them know you don't give out information unless I go through it with you first, because stealing a child's identity is very, very critical, and they will suffer for it for 16, 17, 18 years until they become a teenager and start looking at their credit or whatever. So I think that's a conversation that we need to have with the kids.
Good. I mean, parents, and I agree with Monty, parents need to be engaged. If you're going to get them on Facebook, technology, whatever, you need to be engaged. You need to be monitoring. You need to be a parent. Don't be a friend. I mean, that's one thing I talked about. You got to parent them. You got to monitor it. You got to do all that great things. So Monty, hold on before you go. I actually have I have one thing for you after this is done.
No problem.
One thing I ask you guys right now, a call of action, make sure you back up your data. Ransomware is running wild right now. Have 2 to 3 points of backups. If one's a cloud service, one's a hard drive, have 3 different areas of backups, and make sure that's ongoing. It's a continual backup of your data. Like I said, software can be reinstalled. Data, if that's lost, it's lost. Right? So back up all that information, because again, tell your friends, tell your family members, tell people that you like, people that you don't like. You can just say, don't back up. You're fine. Don't worry about it. And then you can laugh. But the ones that you love and you care about, make sure you tell them to back up your information.
Well, that's when they send them to you. If it's an enemy or somebody you don't like, and when they get their data stolen, send them to Brandon. He can talk to them about what to do next time.
Exactly.
Right.
So guys, thank you so much. I really appreciate you guys coming out every Tuesday at 10 a.m. Make sure that you subscribe to my Twitter. Keep an idea of what's going on of the cybersecurity and things I'm posting. I have these every Tuesday morning at 10 a.m. Great people like Monty, Chris. Thank you guys so much for contributing and giving some great information. So guys, I'd like to see you next Tuesday. Make sure you share this out with your family and friends.
And tweet it out quickly before.
Yeah, tweet it out. Make sure everyone knows, but make sure you share this out, because again, people need to know.
Exactly.
Remember this: software is hackable. Being connected is vulnerable. They don't realize that. They need to know.
Yeah.
So guys, have a great Tuesday.
Great. Fantastic.